Okay, I did not film updates throughout the first trimester and even most of the second trimester. So I thought I would kind of recap the first trimester and a little bit of the second trimester up until 19 weeks. That's when I started filming updates, just to kind of talk about it. So I have it. So I think it'll be really fun to look back on the journey. And I feel like I already start to forget what kind of happened, but I do write things down to help me remember. And if I have another baby in the future, so I can look back, or I can share this with my baby to see exactly what I went through in my pregnancy. So in the first trimester, I talk about in another video, in the Letrozole success video, that I did find out I was pregnant while I was in Malaysia. So I found out, I believe it was like right at the end of the 2-week wait that I found out. So I was not in the country, and I had been doing fertility treatments. It was my first cycle with Letrozole when I found out. So I was so nervous when I was in Malaysia because this was also my first pregnancy after having an ectopic pregnancy. So I was terrified, and every ache and pain and twinge and whatever I felt, I was in my head oh my gosh, it's another ectopic. So I wasn't coming home from Malaysia for 2 weeks. So I had to wait for those first 2 weeks of finding out I was pregnant in Malaysia before I could come home and get an ultrasound at the fertility clinic. But during that time, I was mostly feeling good. I was really tired, and I don't know if that was from being in Malaysia and the time change, because I found out actually the day I got to Malaysia. So I was exhausted from the time change, but then I think also with just the changes in the hormones and all these things, it made me even more tired. So there was that, and I was also there for work, so I was working. Everything like that was just kind of a lot. So I found out, and then when I came home from Malaysia, I think it was around 6 weeks, I went, that was the time period, I was turning 6 weeks, and I knew exactly to the day, how many weeks, and I still do because I had fertility treatment, and you do a trigger shot, so you know exactly, there are no questions about how far along you are. But the day I got back, my husband and I, well, actually not the day, because I got back on a Friday evening and the fertility clinic didn't open till Monday. So Monday morning, my husband and I went into the fertility clinic for our first ultrasound since finding out we were pregnant. So we went into the clinic, and I was wearing this black and floral dress, and I remember the dress, I remember everything. My heart was pounding so hard in my chest, and I was so nervous, and my husband was nervous, and we go in and they do the internal ultrasound, and they're looking at the screen, but we can't see the screen, and they're quiet for a second, so I'm oh my God, oh my God. But then they said, there is the baby. At this point, it was just a yolk sac, so we could see that, but there was nothing else. There was no heartbeat yet. It was still really early, so they could just see the yolk sac. So it was just a little circle on the screen with a white ring around it. So that's what we could see. So then the next week, we went back for another ultrasound, and we went back at 7 weeks. We could see the heartbeat. So the heartbeat was really good. I don't have the numbers with me, but I will put them on the screen so you can see for each week that I have the heartbeat. So for 7 weeks we went, and that's the first time we saw the heartbeat, and it was great. Then we went back again at 8 weeks. We're still at the fertility clinic. We went back at 8 weeks, great heartbeat. Everything was looking good. At 8 weeks, I did find out that I had a small bleed in my uterus. And they said it was because that's where the placenta attached, and it either hit a vein or something, and that caused just a small bleed. But they weren't really concerned about it. They said it would pass on its own, and I never noticed anything. I never felt any different. It was totally fine. And then I went back for my final ultrasound at the fertility clinic at 9 weeks, and they said the bleed had completely cleared up. Again, I never saw anything, I never felt anything, it went away on its own. The heartbeat at that point was still good, so at that point, I was released from the fertility clinic. So that was at 9 weeks. I left the fertility clinic, and then I had my first appointment at my OB doctor at 11 weeks. So I stayed at the fertility clinic for 4 weeks after finding out I was pregnant, and that's because it's so early. They still want to monitor you, and because I had fertility treatment and my past, they monitor you a little bit longer. And that for me was really reassuring to see each week, you know, everything growing. And I could see by the end, you could see the little arms and the little legs, and it was so tiny. But it was really great to be able to see on those 4 different occasions the baby in that time. So then I went with my cousin at 12 weeks to have another ultrasound at a private clinic, just because I was just getting so nervous, and I really wanted to just make sure everything was going okay. And so we did that at 12 weeks, and then I also had an ultrasound at 16 weeks, and then I had an anatomy scan at 20 weeks. So I've had 6 ultrasounds so far, and I'll have one every 4 weeks going forward until I deliver the baby, just because of my history and Zika and all these different things. But so far, everything's looking good and going well. So back to the first trimester. So I mentioned in the video, the Letrozole Success video, that I was on endometrium for the first 3 weeks of the week before I found out I was pregnant, and then the 2 weeks after. Once I got back from Malaysia, I actually switched from endometrium to progesterone and oil injections. So those are very long needles, and they go in your back. So I was talking about the Avidril trigger shot, how that needle is so small and does not hurt at all. The PIO injections are a little bit different. So they aren't really painful. The actual injection, it feels like a quick pinch. Like, it's, in my opinion anyways, I didn't think it was super painful. And it was pretty quick, but in my mind, it was like so mentally hard to be like, okay, I'm gonna do the shot, because the needle is so big, and it doesn't go into your butt, it goes into your back, almost like your hip area. So in my head, I'm like, there's not enough cushion there, is the needle gonna hit the bone? And I was so nervous. The first night, it took me a solid 45 minutes to even have the courage to let my sister gave me the shot to let her do it. So after the first night, I was like, okay. And when she did it, I was like, is it in? Is it in? She's like, yes, it's in. And I was like, wow, it's super quick. But it's the medicine goes in kind of slowly, so it takes a little bit of time. But then after that, I was okay. So my sister has given me the shot. My husband's giving me the shot. 2 of my cousins have given me the shot. And I had to take it through the rest of my first trimester. So the first 3 weeks I was an endometrium, and then I switched to the PIO injection. I took those all the way up until I was 14 weeks. And I did alternating sides each night. Towards the end, towards the very end of my first trimester, probably the last 2.5 weeks, the left side hurt so bad. So I would sometimes do 2 right in a row, and then 1 left, and then 2 right, because it just hurt so bad. It was like a burning feeling when they would put the medicine in. I don't know if it was just because so many needles were in there, because it was not like that in the beginning, but also after a while, people say the worst part about those shots is not the actual shot, it's the after. It's how sore your back is. So we have a Wrangler, and I would drive the Wrangler to work, and I would get out of the car, and it's high off the ground, and I'm short, I'm only 5'3", so I'd go from the side of the car to get out, and it would just hurt my back, because it was kind of I'd hit the ground quick, and it would just hurt so bad. I couldn't run, I couldn't do anything, and it was very painful. So for me, that was the worst part. It wasn't the actual needle, it was the after of the shot and the burning things that were happening. So I am so happy I am done with those, and don't have to look at another shot. So that was probably the thing in the first trimester that was just the most annoying, and I had to do it every single night. And my husband and I were in a wedding that we drove to that was like 10 hours away. So like he had to do it in the car and like at the hotel, and it's like the night of the wedding, and it's just like you have to like kind of plan for it, and it's just something you have to do. I mean, we did it, and I would do it over and over again to have the baby, but it is just kind of like an annoying thing that you have to do. But that was that. For symptoms in the first trimester, I had nausea, but it is not nearly as bad as like a lot of people that I've heard. So I did not throw up at all, but I was super nauseous and very close many times. And for me, it was never in the morning. And I know a lot of people know that morning sickness is not just morning, it's just called that. But for me, it was like nighttime. So when I would get out of work, and I would like be on my way home from work, that's when I would feel it the most. And then I would sleep and I would get up for dinner and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't eat anything, like I don't feel well at all. So for me, that's when it kind of hit. It was the evening time, and it was almost just like a switch. When I got into the second trimester, that like went away, and it was just so much better. So I don't know, for me, that's what it was. It was not fun, but I am thankful because it was not nearly as bad as I know a lot of people's morning sickness is. Another symptom for me was exhaustion, and I know a lot of people deal with this, and oh my goodness, I cannot even explain how tired I was. I remember getting up for work, and I would be on my way to work, and I would think to myself, like, how am I gonna make it through today? I am so tired. I'm not gonna be able to work for 8 hours. And I work in an office and I'm sitting, and so I would get up and like take some walks around because I would like get really sleepy and stuff. But it's not like I was on my feet or anything, but I would get home from work, fall right asleep, nap for like 3 hours, wake up, get some food, and then go to bed and go right to dinner. And like that's what I did every day. But again, it was like as soon as I got into that second trimester, like I got my energy back. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get that second trimester energy back. That's not gonna happen to me, because I was just so tired. I didn't think it was possible, but it did happen. And I like haven't really napped since then, which is nice because I don't like napping in the evening because you get home from work and then you only have a few hours before bedtime. So in my mind, I would rather just stay up and like do things and be productive than nap. But in the first trimester, I just could not help it. That's all I wanted to do was sleep, sleep, sleep. So those were like the big symptoms for me. Overall, I felt pretty good. I would probably say I was moody. I didn't notice it, but my family noticed it, and they told me I was like not myself. Looking back, I probably would say, yeah, I was like a little moody and things like that. But overall, I think I just was so excited. And we actually did find out the gender at 9 weeks with sneak peek, and it was correct for us. So I was not really trusting it because just read a lot of reviews and things, and I made sure I did it in a place where there was no guys because you don't want to get the boy DNA and things like that. So we did it at a place that there was no guys or anything, very sterile. And so it came back girl. So I was like, okay, but we're not going to do like any gender announcements. We didn't tell anybody. We didn't even tell anyone the gender until my family at 14 weeks and my husband's family at 16 weeks, but we knew since 9 weeks. So we did the sneak peek and it said girl. And then with my doctor, when I went to the OB, I think it was like between 10 and 11 weeks, we did the Progenity non-invasive prenatal testing, or cell-free, or whatever you want to call it, test, and we test for genetic things, but then they also tested for gender, and that came back girl. And then when we got the ultrasound at 16 weeks, they also confirmed girl. So we're definitely having a girl. So the way we found out, so we did the sneak peek results, but those come to you in an email. So we took the email to the store. My husband picked out a boy outfit and a girl outfit. I let him pick them both out. And we brought them up to the cash register along with the email, and we showed my phone to the person who works there, and we said, okay, if it's a girl, ring up and wrap up the girl. If it's a boy, ring up and wrap up the boy. We're gonna step away from the counter and not be near it, but these are the two outfits. And he was like so nervous. He was like a high school kid and was just so cute and nervous, and he was like if it's a girl, then girl. And we're like, yes, if it's a girl, then ring up the girl stuff and hide the boy stuff so we don't see it. So once everything was like bagged and away and everything, we just gave him the card and we like took everything. We didn't look at the receipt, and actually both outfits were the same price, but we didn't want to like accidentally see. So we just took everything and we got home and we opened it together and like pulled out the outfit, and it was the little girl outfit. So that was a cute way, instead of just like reading it together, to make it a little bit more fun. And that's actually the outfit the baby's gonna wear home from the hospital. So we're really excited about that, you know, it was a special thing, and that outfit will be special because that's how we found out we were having a girl, and now she has the outfit to wear home from the hospital. So we did that it was like at the end, towards the end of 9 weeks, going into 10 when we found out, because sneak peek takes a few days to come back. Other highlights in the first trimester, not really. Overall, it was good. So for gender reveals, since I didn't talk about that in any other videos, for my family, we did cupcakes, and they all bit into them at the same time, and I made them myself and filled them myself. If you ever want to do those cupcakes, they are so easy. You just make your cupcakes and then you cut with a knife the top and you pull it out, and then you squirt in the color frosting you want, and then you just put the top back over it and then you frost it. So we did that with my family, and then we also actually did the same thing with my husband's family. We did the same type of reveal. So they all live in New York, and they live in 2 different parts of New York, and we live in Illinois. So we had to go on 2 separate occasions to New York to be able to do that with them. And then actually telling the family we were pregnant, I'll talk about that too. So we told our families at around 7 weeks. We wanted to hear the heartbeat first. Well, at that point, you can't even hear the heartbeat at 7 weeks. We saw the heartbeat on the screen. So at that point, we told, sorry, my husband is outside doing the weed whacking, and he's never done it before, so I'm like watching him. So at 7 weeks, we went home for my cousin's graduation from high school, and I baked cookies that were in a onesie shape, and then I made royal icing and I frosted them. So royal icing is like the hard icing. So I frosted them, and then on each cookie I wrote like aunt whatever, uncle whatever for my siblings, and then my mom and dad I wrote grandma and grandpa. And then my grandma, I wrote great grandma on her cookie, and then my aunts and uncles who were there, I wrote great aunt, great uncle, whatever, and their name. And I did that for everybody in my family and put them in a bag that was not see-through, and we had everybody over before, you know, everybody went back from where they came from for the graduation, and we had them open them all at the same time, and they were like cute onesie cookies and what, you know, the baby will call them. So that was really fun to do with my family. And then my husband's family, because we couldn't get back to New York to do it in person, we sent them all onesies, like actual onesies. So for his mom and dad, we did like grandma and grandpa. For his brothers and sisters, we did aunts and uncles and things. And we mailed in these packages, but we addressed them with my name. And we were like, oh, Amazon shipped it there. Can you just open it? We just want to make sure it's the right thing. And most of them played along. His sister had already Googled it and like knew what the package was, so she was not surprised. But the rest were surprised, and it was like really a fun way. We FaceTime with them, and they opened it while we were on the phone with them, so it was a really fun way to get their reaction. And we recorded them, and I'm so happy we have it on tape. But that was a lot of fun, telling everyone we were pregnant, and everyone was really excited. And everybody knows in my family and his family about our history, so we would have told them, you know, right away, anyways. So we didn't mind telling them that early. I know some people wait until a little bit later. But then after the gender reveal with his family at 17 weeks, that's when we like really told people. So we waited a while longer than most people do. But I just have so much anxiety in pregnancy, I think probably because of my history, that I just did not want to put anything out there to like the world until we knew, you know, for sure. And like I had started feeling movement and like, you know, things like that. So that's when we told everyone. So that is really a recap of the first trimester and the first few weeks of the second trimester. So far, everything is going well. I'm feeling good. few bumps in the first trimester. I mean, like I said, I had to do all those shots, which was a little intimidating at first, but you get through it and you do what you have to do for your baby. So we're happy to be bumping along and doing well. So that is the first trimester update.